Hey, welcome back to Callie's Quarantine Corner. Can you even understand me with this thing? I'm trusting you that if I take this off, you aren't going to infect me, okay? You take yours off, I'll take mine off.
That's better. I'm Callie. Welcome to Callie's Corner. In this episode, we're going to do our top 5 quarantine picks. 5 different times people should have been quarantined or the quarantine was not successful. Number 5, Cabin Fever. And this is one of those movies where I don't think I should have been watching it. But my brother worked for the cable company for a while, so we had access to like Starz, HBO. We had every single cable channel that there was. Cabin Fever star Sean Hunter. His name is Ryder Strong. He's from my favorite show, Boy Meets World. And he goes with a group of friends to a cabin in the woods. You know, young people, cabin in the woods, nothing good can ever come from this. One by one, every member of the household gets ill. They start to fall ill with a flesh-eating virus. The climax of the film involves some running from some hillbillies, and then a whole bunch of people are having access to this water. The town's trying to cover it up. It's a whole thing. But this movie shows what happens when you don't quarantine. You're not making any efforts, and you plan on really jacking stuff up for everybody all across the country. If you want to be paranoid about the simplest thing you have, which is water, then Cabin Fever is definitely the movie for you. Number 4 is Outbreak. Outbreak is a movie I've been seeing on a lot of articles online about outbreaks, along with Contagion. Contagion is an honorable mention. It just barely misses our list. Any movie where Gwyneth Paltrow gets her comeuppance is a movie that I can get behind. And Contagion's very accurate to what we have going on today with Corona. Now, Outbreak is the Hollywood version of that. Like, let's say you know that kid in your class where they don't do any research and they just go off some crap they heard on the news or saw on TV one time. That's Outbreak. Outbreak is not trying to find anything factual. It's not trying to give you any real information on how to avoid an outbreak. It is just Hollywood, big name cast. We're all gonna die, there's an outbreak, but Dustin Hoffman's gonna save you. A young Cuba Gooding Jr.'s got his back. Kevin Spacey is a complicated guy. Good actor, creepy man. So you'll like his outcome in Outbreak. But it's about a little tiny monkey who infects McDreamy. I don't watch Grey's Anatomy, but it's the doctor from Grey's Anatomy, Patrick Dempsey. He's the patient zero, if you will. The monkey, of course. And then he does what you do when you're infected with a virus and you don't feel well. He travels across country. He makes sure he goes to many public places before he dies. Then, before you know it, this whole town is infected. It's an outbreak. And in a very uncharacteristic role, Morgan Freeman is the commanding officer in this movie. He has like a crew cut. You don't really want to see Morgan Freeman with a crew cut yelling at people. It's not pleasant. Morgan Freeman, he's not even the meanest guy. There's a meaner guy than Morgan Freeman who also has a really top rank, and it's just real 90s cheese. There's not really anything accurate about the medical advice in the movie, and on top of that, they just make stupid decisions. It's just dumb decision after dumb decision that involves with all these people getting infected with this, it's kind of like Ebola mixed with like Corona, like we have now. These people, they get very ill, and you know, like people do that in sick movies. They like tense up and then like, you know, stuff comes out. So it's more of an action thing than a disease thing, but you can't talk about outbreaks without mentioning a movie called Outbreak. So our number 4 pick is Outbreak. My number 3 pick is Voyage of Terror. Now, I had to find this movie because I've never heard anyone talk about this movie. I've never seen this movie since the 90s. I haven't seen it again, I don't think. Now, Voyage of Terror came out in 1998, and it aired on PAX. You remember PAX? It didn't have very good shows and movies. I remember the reception, like when you watched it, if you had like an antenna or you had regular cable. PAX was not always as good a quality picture as other cable networks or network stations. This movie came on PAX religiously. This came on all the time. So when I was looking for the movie, I Googled cruise ship virus movie. And surprisingly, this was the first movie that came up. You'd think with how many people actually get infected on cruise ships with all types of diseases that are non-corona related, that someone would have made a disease cruise ship movie sooner, but nope. This Voyage of Terror is holding it down as one of the only cruise ship terror movies there are about disease. The main character is, she's a doctor. She conveniently knows how to synthesize a cure for this infectious disease. She does all of this aboard a cruise ship with limited supplies and with no assistance or backup. Now, someone who comes onto the ship, they're not well, they have like some Ebola-like disease, and they spread it to other people on the cruise ship. Now, what really stuck out to me about this movie, there was a scene where they had the quarantined people on one side and they had the people that were ill on the other side. The people who were supposed to be outside the quarantine and be healthy, they were infected because someone on the boat turned on like a fan. They like turned on a vent, and the camera just lingered on that vent for a long time. And that's just stuck with me my whole life. Sometimes I'm in an enclosed space and I'm like, look at that vent. When's the last time they dusted that vent? Who's cleaning that vent? Who is making sure weird air from that room over there is not coming in this room right here? That 1998 PAX made-for-TV crappy movie, that was the moment in my life I decided you are a germaphobe. To some degree, I am a germaphobe. If I'm in a public place and someone is coughing on me, near me, there's a sneeze. That movie, Voyage of Terror, was the first time I think my brain started working in that way of, wow, the world is not a safe place and no one is protecting you from infections. So I did go on a cruise once. It was fun. I didn't get infected or anything, but I'm definitely going to be a lot more thoughtful about cruising in the future. So if you never want to enjoy a cruise ever again, please watch Voyage of Terror. My number 2 pick is Tale of the Night Shift. You see, I'm throwing the stuff in the fire. That's me. I'm telling the tale. This is kind of like when the gang took a break and then they got back together. This was like at the later part of the show. And you remember it came on Snick. So it was a little more controversial, the things that came on Snick versus the things that came on Nick. So basically in this episode, Tale of the Night Shift, it's about a girl that is a candy striper. Now, I've never seen one of these people in real life. They always show them in TV and movies, and I'm like, what is this position at the hospital? Are you a nurse? Are you a volunteer? I don't know. They go in like the patient's rooms and stuff. It doesn't seem safe. So she is a night shift candy striper on top of that. She is a night shift candy striper. They're kind of setting up the people who might be the suspect to start this outbreak. You have a brand new candy striper girl, you have the nurses, and you have a few of the patients they show that are up at night and they're kids and they're in the hospital. As the show progresses, everyone starts acting weird. We don't know why everyone's acting weird. The girl does not know why everyone's acting weird. But us who are watching, we see that the people have bites on their necks. Two puncture wounds right next to each other. Our worst fears are realized. It's a vampire. Surprise. I know this is a spoiler for a show that's already been out now for over 20 years, but it is a vampire outbreak. Are You Afraid of the Dark? They did not play with the makeup effects. For a Canadian TV show, makeup effect department, they brought the fire, okay? They brought the flames. There are times you're watching this, some episodes that I've got to give a shout out to, the one with the pool. There was like a pool monster. That makeup was so scary. You had the one with the clown. There's actually like 12 with the clown. So I'm not even going to go into deeper detail. That's for another day, for another episode. The vampire causes the outbreak. She's got to take down the vampire. This hospital, if she doesn't do this hospital is going to break the quarantine zone. So she does defeat the vampire. The vampires don't get loose. She's a real MVP. Our number 1 pick on Callie's Corner for Outbreak movies is 28 Days Later. This movie is straight up horror. There is no comedy. There is no just drama. Everything about this movie is horrific. If you do not have a stomach for horror, I don't even know if you should check it out. You might be traumatized. But it's a great Outbreak quarantine movie. Basically, if you've seen The Walking Dead, you've seen a tame version of 28 Days Later. They both open up with somebody waking up at the hospital after an outbreak. He has no idea that the world has completely been overtaken in London by this virus. Now, this is where you get into the argument of slow zombies versus fast zombies. Fast zombies? Fast zombies are scary. Who cares about slow zombies? Slow zombies are upsetting. You know what I mean? It's upsetting to know that slow zombies are around. But a zombie, I'm someone, I don't get my cardio in. And I know a bunch of people that don't. So a fast zombie is your worst case scenario. And in this movie, the infection rate is like so fast. It's like 5 seconds later you're infected once someone gets their blood on you or whatever. So this disease is started in a lab from monkeys. There's some activists that go to let the monkeys out, and then that is when all hell breaks loose. This movie will stick with you. This is something, I don't even know if I wish I would have watched it as a child. I feel like I'm a very well-developed adult. Normal in every way. I don't think watching 28 Days Later was probably helpful to my overall development though. And then there's no warning. They will run you down and rip you apart. Even the human characters, you have 2 or 3 human characters that are positive and have redeemable characteristics, but pretty much everyone else they encounter in the movie sucks. They're monsters in their own way too. Overall, 28 Days Later is the ultimate what can go wrong if the quarantine zone is breached. So that's my number 1 pick, is 28 Days Later. There's also a sequel, 28 Weeks Later. It's not bad. You should definitely check it out if you like 28 Days Later. It also has a good cast. That one you need to watch because the opening scene in it is so scary. It never gets quite as scary as 28 Days Later, but the opening scene in it, you will be like this. You'll be like, I can't breathe. That's on my list for quarantine-related movies where people either broke the quarantine or did a good job maintaining the quarantine or they got things back under control. If you have any disease movies, outbreaks, quarantine movies, please comment below. I'm sure I left maybe one of your favorites off the list, so please comment down below, drop a like on this video, turn on your subscriptions, and make sure that you don't miss any more Callie's Corners. Shay, get your life together. You want to get thrown out the quarantine?
This is my quarantine.
Now it's my quarantine. This is Callie's quarantine. Okay.